Boom. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Live with Kai. We're going to do a little webinar today, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things here. But I'm super duper excited for this. This is something that I've always wanted to do for quite some time. And now it's actually happening. So I'm super duper excited. And I just want to welcome you to the Live with Kai webinar series. Tonight, we are going to be focusing on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is how to speak up for yourself. So in about 2 minutes, we are going to get things started. Once again, thank you so much for coming, and it's going to be fun. So yeah, stay tuned. 2 more minutes and we'll get started. All right, so let's get this thing super duper started. Just so you know, I am monitoring the comments on Facebook, so I'm able to see what you are writing in real time. And yeah, so I'm going to answer some of your questions here as well. Sanda, I see you. Becky, I see you. Hello. Yeah, so we decided to move. So I figured out how to do a Zoom webinar on Facebook. So we are now able to do this on Facebook, which is super duper exciting. And I think that will just make things a lot easier. So originally, the original plan with the registration was to give it to people so that they can have a link to get to the Zoom webinar. But now that we are here, we're able to actually get things rolling here. So all right, so like I said, I'm super excited. Listen, I have a motto. I have a motto when it comes to life and my live webinars, right? And that thing is just be good, do good, live a good life full of good vibes. And I also want to say that a lot of the times uh, my thing is this. I like for this to be more of a conversation than a presentation. So if at any time, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, if anything like that, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and just say whatever you need to say because yeah, this is exciting. I'm like really super duper excited. So if you are interested in anything, I'm going to put up my screen here so you can see. There we go. All right, so if you are interested in getting more good vibes and positive energy and things like that, you can follow me on all of my favorite social media channels. On Facebook and Instagram at The Vibe with Kai. And then you can also follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok at Kyrus Keenan. I do have this motto on on Snapchat that if you send me a smile, I will send one back to you. That is how I roll with everything that I do. So let me just make sure everything's working here on Facebook. Okay, I think everything's okay. Let's see. Let's make sure. All right, I think we're okay. All right. So with that being said, last but not least, I do want to show you this. I do have merchandise now, which is crazy to even put out there and think about. I do have merchandise now. So you can go to the Vibe with Kai store and you can get 15% taken off. That is a thing that you can actually buy. We have things for everybody. We have things for women, men, and for dogs, and for kitchens, and for anything that you want. We do have it. So if you go to thevibewithkai.com, you can get your Vibe with Kai store, your Vibe with Kai stuff, and it's all going to be there. And it's 15% off if you act right now, which I'm super duper excited about. I've never had a store before, so this is kind of insane that this is even happening, but alas, it is happening. So here's the thing. This is what we're going to talk about today, because this is a topic that's really, really close to me, right? We are going to be talking about ways that you can go about living a good life and a good vibe full of positive energy, and with all of that, being able to speak up for yourself, because I think that's something that people don't normally do. So here's a rundown of how things are going to go today. We'll start off with an introduction, right? Then from there, we're going to go into 5 reasons why you should speak up for yourself. And then I'm going to give you 10 reasons how you can speak up for yourselves. And then we're going to do a quick little recap just to make sure that you caught on to everything. And then at the very end, we are doing a Q&A. So if you are here, if you're watching on Zoom, you can write in the chat. If you are watching on Facebook, I am following along on Facebook, so you are able to put everything in there, and I will be sure to make sure that you have everything you need. All right. So let me do a quick little thing here. So I've always been a person that can be described as someone who is pretty straightforward, pretty honest. I've been called blunt at times. And it's weird because when somebody tells me that, I'm in this weird phase of like, is this a compliment or is this an insult? But here's the truth, right? As I've grown up through all of these years, I've gone through some good times and I've gone through some bad times. And as I've talked and learned from so many people around me, I've learned that being honest and being a straight shooter, being blunt, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I take it as a compliment because it's my truth. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am the master, like the expert when it comes to the art of communication. I mean, you could just ask any of my ex-girlfriends that. I'm just not good at it, but I work on it. I try hard. What I can do is share with you what I've learned by always speaking my mind and speaking my truth. Let's be real. More often than not, people do not share what's really on their mind. They stay quiet, or even worse, they'll not say the complete truth. And the question is why? Well, think about it. Put yourself in a situation in which you have the opportunity to speak your truth, and when you decide not to, what stopped you? Were you scared of offending somebody? Were you afraid of hurting someone else's feelings? Did you say to yourself, hey, I think I should just stay silent because that's the better choice? While I completely understand that notion and that mindset, and trust me, the hesitancy is something that I practice as well, I often believe that choosing to speak up will always be a better option over silence. It's about finding your voice. I read this quote the other day, and it said, speak up, be heard. If you don't say a word, then nothing will stay the same, or then everything will stay the same. Speak up, be heard. If you don't say a word, everything will stay the same. That was incredibly powerful to me. I want you to take a second and think about that. Really think about the words that I said right there. Speak up, be heard. If you don't say a word, then everything will stay the same. Are you someone who always wanted to speak up but didn't know how? Are you someone who has this dreadful fear about speaking your truth? Are you someone that experienced something in the past that now maybe prevents you from speaking up? I guess the real question now is, Why do we stay silent? Maybe it's something in your past. Maybe when you were younger, you had the impression that it was better to be seen than heard. Maybe you grew up as a child in a family of more than one, and you were a good kid or a quiet kid, and it just perpetuated you into not saying anything. Maybe similarly, you've been labeled the shy one. Maybe you've been in a relationship where you've been shot down so many times, but that at this point, you're just gun shy. You don't speak up because you don't feel safe. Maybe you've made it you're made to feel stupid or unworthy or unintelligent when you share your ideas. Breaking past that intimidation barrier can be really hard, especially if you're used to holding on to your opinions. But it's vital that you practice regularly speaking your mind in your career, in your life, at work, at home, with your friends, with your family. Be mindful of the appropriate times and the places to speak your opinion, and never, ever, ever be afraid to let your true feelings be known. And again, I get it. For a lot of us out here, we'd rather be safe than sorry. So with that said, I'm going to tell you the 5 reasons why I think that it's important that you always speak your mind. And then after that, we are going to get into more detail about how. I'm looking at some of the comments here. Fear is what usually holds me back from speaking out sometimes, but I'm working on it. Absolutely. Rachel says, are you stalking me? Because you are dead on. I can see you from outside of my window. So let's talk about this a little bit, shall we? Here we go. Number 1, your silence can be mistaken as approval. When you don't speak up, your silence equals approval. You're giving people permission to just walk all over you. And you shouldn't be willing to compromise your self-worth. Don't give people that ability, because silence equals approval. Staying silent is never the answer. Silence is a passive-aggressive form of communication. I hate it. If you disapprove something, but not say anything about it, it's almost as good as enabling it, right? Silence can create mistrust and resentment. Let's see what we have here. Jennifer says, most of the time I speak up, but it depends on who I'm speaking with the topic. Absolutely, and we're going to get more into that, Jennifer. That's a very good point. Very good point. We're going to get more into that. Number 2, you're thinking about the bigger picture. This is one of my favorites. It may not be easy to share what you think, but it's always right. Again, as long as you do it in a way that is respectful and courteous, you can speak what is on your mind. No one has to agree with you or even like it, for God's sakes. But your opinion is your opinion, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Lori says, this happens all the time on conference calls. Oh, Lord, don't I know it. Every day I have to deal with that. I totally get it. You're not doing anybody any favors by sitting quietly and watching the world engage around you. Be willing to stick up for the things that you believe in. Be open enough to share your thoughts and encourage others to do the same. Oh my gosh. Share your thoughts and encourage others to do the same. Let the others learn from you, and then you can learn from others. Number 3, you're showing that you are truly invested into the situation. Ask yourself this. Why are you in the conversation in the first place? Someone has invited you into this conversation, and they're doing that for your thoughts, for your mindset. So why stay silent? If you truly don't have a stake in this situation, then I'm pretty damn sure that you can find a better use of your time. But if you're there, you might as well just say what's on your mind. If you are there for a reason, you need to show your commitment to the process and the people involved with that process by being active and being vocal. Speaking up is an opportunity for is an important form of honesty, and that's the key word right there. Honesty. It's one of my favorite words. It's one of my favorite words because honesty builds trust, especially when you're honest and you combine that with tact and empathy. Demonstrate that you will be truthful with people, that you care about them, and that you can give them good advice. And I promise you, you will never lack trusting from your friends, from your coworkers, from your family members, from your followers. Even if your opinion isn't even taken into serious consideration, the fact that you brought it up can still drive a meaningful discussion. It might open up another door that might lead to something else that's just as important or even more important. I'll give an example. I'm sure a lot of you watching right now can relate to this, right? Have you ever been sitting in like a group meeting or an office meeting, and then the group has collectively decided that your idea isn't worth pursuing, right? It's a sucky feeling, especially in theater, right? When you're sitting there and you have an idea for something and somebody's just like, no, we're good, thanks though. But here's the thing. Even though they shot down your idea, your opinion could generate some alternative lines of thinking and a new perspective that can keep the conversation moving forward. Ultimately, discussion leads to results. Let's be real. Discussion leads to results. And the more opinions there are to feed that conversation, to feed that discussion, the faster and more efficiently you'll eventually get to those results. Let's see what we have here. Sanda says, being invested is so important, especially in relationship conversations. Don't I know it? This is where I find it hardest to speak up for fear of a fight. Or argument. I get it. Let me see if we have any, I don't think we had anything come in through, let's see, we have one coming in the Zoom chat here. Most of the time I speak up, but it depends on who I'm speaking with and the topic. I always tell people, we don't have to agree. We just need to respect each other's opinion. Absolutely. I think listening is one of the biggest parts. One of the biggest things that people are not able to do sometimes is just listen. And yes, by the way, I am drinking White Claw, as always, during my webinars. Tonight's webinar is once again brought to you by White Claw, hard seltzer. Tonight I am drinking raspberry. So my friends, cheers. Cheers to speaking up. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, perhaps they simply don't know. While you may think that things are obvious, people might not view the world with your perspective. No one is about to automatically acknowledge your point of view, your opinion, or even your talents if you don't share it. Things will never go your way if you don't speak up. If you don't say what's on your mind, how is anyone else going to know what you're thinking? It may seem obvious to you where you stand, especially on particular subjects, but that isn't always the case, is it? People, and I know I'm preaching to a choir here because I think we all understand what I'm about to say here. People can interpret things differently, very differently. There might be people in your life that are just reading the situation completely wrong. And that sucks. And I think somebody alluded to this before in the chat. This is primarily true when it comes to close relationships, romantic, friendships, people that you work with closely at work. It's easy to think that your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your partner, your family member, since you spend so much time with them, it might be easy for you to think that they should just know. They should just know how to read you like a book. We believe that they should know via our mannerisms what we're thinking and how we're feeling, and sometimes they do. However, all too often, they're not quite as astute as we give them credit for. I mean, come on, raise your hand if some of the most frustrating situations that you've had in regards to communication have been with somebody that you're close with. Here's the thing. Here's the truth. It doesn't matter whether they're your family member, your friend, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever it may be. They can't read your mind more than anybody else can read their mind. If they can, let me know, because that's some X-Men mutant stuff right there. They have some superpowers. They can't read your mind any more than anybody else. So why make them try to figure out your thoughts? And at worst, they try to figure it out and they're wrong. Why go through all of that when you could just tell them and lay all of your cards out on the table, leaving no room for misrepresentation, miscommunication? I promise you, you'll likely save yourself a lot of grief and a lot of frustration in the long run. Number 5, you may not be the only one feeling this way. More than at least 100 times, people have told me that they also were thinking the same thing, right? But never have the right words or courage to say it. I told you, I'm over the years, I've just become uniquely blunt. Speaking of my mind has encouraged other people around me to do the same. If you're willing to share your innermost thoughts and feelings, I said this before, it may inspire people around you to do the exact same thing. They will see you as somebody that they look up to, somebody that they respect, maybe a mentor. Maybe they want to try to follow in your footsteps by being more vocal when the situation calls for it. How many times have you seen something and you thought to yourself, wow, I wish I would have said that. I just realized that my headphones I think I'm supposed to be coming through my headphones right now. I never put my headphones in. You can probably hear me better now. How many times have you seen someone or seen something and you thought to yourself, I wish I would have said that? Well, if you become a person who speaks up when you need to, then certainly there will be others that think this very same thing when they look at you. In essence, you could help them create the change that they want for themselves in this area. Sometimes people are intimidating. Let's be real. People are intimidating, they're scary, and when they voice their opinions, it's because they feel like they're the only ones that feel that way. For example, if you're at work and you're sitting in a meeting listening to your boss talk about, I work in marketing, right? So let's just say you're sitting at work and you're listening to your boss talk about a new marketing strategy. And you're sitting there concerned that the approach that that person is going to take will be ineffective. You might clam up. You might be like, no, I'm not going to say anything. It's not worth it. However, you never know, because there might be other people in that marketing meeting that might feel the exact same way. If your voice is your opinion, you could give voice to everyone else. You might have more support than you realize. So let's recap this. I'm going to go back. Let's recap these 5 things. 5 reasons why you should speak up. Number 1, your silence can be mistaken as approval. Number 2, you're thinking of the bigger picture. Number 3, you're showing that you are truly invested into the situation. Number 4, perhaps they simply do not know. And number 5, you may not be the only one feeling this way. Now here's the big question. How should I speak up? AKA the title of this webinar, right? We just went over the why, but now we have to go over the how. I say this to my team at work all the time. When they're building their marketing strategies, their social media strategies, I always say to them, it's important for you to understand why and how. You have to understand both if you want to really be successful at accomplishing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 10 ways of how to speak up for yourself. Number 1, be transparent and be authentic. This is really difficult sometimes. But if you learn to express yourself openly and honestly, it would feel like a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders. So often we hide behind the half-hearted smile and the nod instead of saying what we truly think. It takes practice, but learning to be an authentic person, learning how to be open about what you are feeling or thinking, that is the first step. Once you get in the habit of making yourself heard without being overly accommodating or defensive, people will be more open to hearing you. So be transparent and be authentic. Number 2, take small but powerful steps. If you are struggling with being assertive, start taking small steps to stand up for yourself. Even just learning to walk more confidently, holding your head up high, putting your shoulders back, just doing that will help you appear and feel more confident. It's not just about looking confident. This will help you feel more confident as well. It's time for you to channel that confidence when you're dealing with other people. And this attitude can apply to all areas of your life, not just work. Feeling annoyed at the person who cut in front of you at Starbucks? Okay, fine, whatever. Politely ask them to move to back. If you see an unfair charge on a bill from PSE&G or from Comcast, call and dispute it. Small but powerful steps. Let's see what we have here. Jennifer says, my face almost always says what my voice doesn't. I'm the same way, Jennifer. My face often, even if I try to hide it, it's there. Lori, body language is a huge factor and can often be misread too. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, for those of you that don't know, I'm actually writing a book called How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes, and I have an entire chapter, a couple chapters actually on body language and how important that is, because that body language sometimes will give away even more so than what people realize. Number 3, when someone attacks, wait. As you grow more confident in expressing yourself, you're always going to have to learn to face those who don't agree with you. It's going to happen. There will always be people whose personalities are in attack mode. We know who those people are. We deal with them all the time. If we say something that they don't agree with, what do? They attack. It's important for you when that kind of situation rises up, it's important for you to remain calm, yet still stay assertive. If you feel like, especially if you feel like somebody's trying to bully you, don't allow yourself to get frazzled, and then you'll start to react to the low blows that they're probably going to start throwing your way. Don't cater to them. Don't allow them to browbeat you. You walk the high road, but you stand your ground. That's one of my favorite quotes. Walk the high road, but stand your ground. Number 4, you got to figure out what's really bothering you. Going with the flow for the purposes of not making waves actually creates more stress and more anxiety for yourself. Of course, muster up the courage to face something or someone that is bothering you. It can be scary, but facing the issue will empower you to make it better, and it diminishes the control it has over you. Always remember, people can't read your mind. We went over this. People can't read your mind. If you don't vocalize what is bothering you, no one will know. Number 5, clarify first without attacking. It's tempting to take the self-righteous stand, especially if you are sure that you are right. From your viewpoint, you are justifiably defending yourself against someone who seems to be entirely in the wrong. But it's important to resist that urge and react with emotion. Instead of going that way, make sure you do this. Take a breath. Take a breath and then just calmly explain your perspective to them. Avoid combative tones. Avoid those accusatory words. That's what stokes the fire. Let's be real. Clarify exactly what you mean. Listen to their response. It's only then that a real discussion can take place. Sandra says, these are the techniques I use when talking to my daughters, well, to my daughter's fathers, as he isn't the nicest to deal with. I've heard many stories like that, for sure, for sure. Clarify first without attacking. Number 6, practice makes perfect. Once you start getting the hang of what it means to stand up for yourself, it's time to start practice. It's time to practice asking for what you want as often as possible. When someone says something that you openly disagree with, or you feel pushed into something that you don't want to do, you got to say something. Research shows that it takes 66 days to form a new habit. So I challenge you, stick with this new assertiveness that we're going over today. Stick with it for 2 months. Start today, and on August 11th, I promise you're going to be really, really happy with yourself. Practice makes perfect. Number 7, be deliberate. I'm going to give you a situation, one that I think a lot of us may have found ourselves in. Have you ever shared a living space or a workspace with somebody and they're just messy? Like that's like I'm a clean freak, and luckily like I live with someone, Gia, who's also a clean freak, right? So like that works out. But I think we've always been in a situation where we're around somebody that's just messy, right? And what do? You remain silent. And you remain silent outwardly, but inwardly you are just growing more and more aggravated as the day goes on, as the weeks go on, as all of this time goes on. You just stay silent. Every now and then you might slip in like a passive aggressive comment or a gesture or something. Maybe as you're cleaning up their mess, you're just like slamming stuff, right? Or making a comment, right? This is what I challenge you to do. Instead of doing that, try being deliberate instead. Tell the person how you are feeling without being accusatory. This is hard, but you can be straightforward with your concerns. Follow up with a simple suggestion that might actually help correct the situation. For example, if you live with somebody that's very dirty, maybe your husband is just driving you nuts, right? Maybe you can say, hey, if you could take a minute to tidy up the space tonight, that would be great. Just get it out, say it, see how they react, and then go from there. Number 8. There's 10, by the way, if you're curious, how far are we going up? I'm sure some of you are like, how many numbers are there? There's 10. There's 400. We are on number 8. I'm kidding. Number 8, stand up for your time. Time is a precious and limited commodity. And yet, we often feel pressured to give it away. There are times when you might not have a choice, such as maybe you're at work and your boss is like, hey, this is a high priority project. I need you to take some time to work on this. I get that. I understand that. I live it every day. But you can't let the obligations dictate how you spend your hours of your day. You are in control of your own time. When it's appropriate, push back. Be tactful. Disengage from those people or situations that might go in a way that you don't want it to go, but you got to be tactful about it. The last thing that you want to do is submerge your schedule. So if somebody tries to do that to you, speak up. Stand up for your time. Time is a precious and limited commodity. I think we had a comment come in via Zoom here. Number 5 hits home for me. You have no idea how many people you can help or give a voice to unless you speak up. Absolutely. Just to remind you guys what number 5 was. Number 5, clarify first without attacking. For sure. Number 9, recognize that no one can invalidate you. You are in complete ownership of your feelings and your actions. Your beliefs, your emotions, your thoughts, and your ideas belong to you. No one else can tell you what you feel or invalidate your opinions. That also goes the other way around. If you seek to invalidate other people's points of view, you are also sabotaging any chance for problem solving or having any sort of open discussion. Lori says, ugh, quarantine has made it where people just book meeting after meeting. Yes, I know that feeling. But I'll tell you this, Lori, I speak up. I say what's on my mind. I'm tactful, but at no point will they ever question what I'm thinking. They know. Recognize that no one can invalidate you. And number 10, this is my favorite. Fake it till you make it. Look, learning to speak up for yourself, it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes time to grow comfortable with being assertive. So while you are at that learning stage, it might help to imagine that you are an actor learning a new role. Imagine that you are the most assertive person you know. Just imagine it. Now think, how would they handle themselves in a difficult situation? There might be times when you swing from being overly zealous to being too indecisive. I get it. But learning to stand up for yourself is like riding a bike. Eventually, you will find your balance. What's the next slide that I have here? Oh, that's from my old one. Cool. So in conclusion, this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to see if I can stop sharing this right here and see if you guys can see my face. I think you guys see my face. Pretty sure you guys see my face, hopefully. If not, I'm sorry. Let's do this. Cool, you can see my face? Awesome, thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. Cool. So, in conclusion, let me just tell you this way. I don't want you to think that you now have a license to just run around and then blurt out whatever comes to mind, regardless of who it will offend. Because that's not what this is about. It's about saying things with integrity and character. It's about being willing to disagree and possibly even changing the world by not conforming to it. Make it a point to stand up for your true self. Do that by engaging yourself in life verbally. And I promise you, you will feel less confined and more open to those around you. Thank you guys for watching today. I really do appreciate it. If you're looking for more good vibes and positive energy and things like that, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Vibe with Kai. You can also follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok at Kyrus Keenan. And don't forget, if you go to thevibewithkai.com, you can get your gear, your Vibe with Kai gear. I think a bunch of people had their gear come in this week, which is really exciting, and they are starting to send me pictures and things like that. So get your gear. We ran out of hats. That's the one thing we've already run out of. So I'm not joking. You need to get your stuff because it's running out. So you can get your gear 15% off at thevibewithkai.com. And also I'll tell you all this. It is 8:46. I'm gonna stick around for another, I would say, maybe 15 minutes. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, I'm going to keep the chat on Facebook and the chat in on Zoom open. So if you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, comments, I will address them here. I'm just going to unplug my microphone here. Yeah, so if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. I am here. Ask away, my friends. Lori says, thank you for your time. You rock. Oh, yay. Thank you. I had a good time. I had a good time talking with you guys. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. Sanda, thank you so much for coming. Rebecca, thank you so much for your love. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see what we have in the chat here. That was the 5 reasons to speak up. I have mastered number 10. Yes, we can. Thank you. Absolutely, Jen. It was my absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure to sit and chat with you guys tonight. For those of you that are new to my life, I go live on TikTok every single Wednesday at 8:00 p.m. and we groove out. We have so much fun. Last night we did 80s night. It was 80s night, and my Tang gang folks, gang. Y'all were causing trouble. Let's be real. Y'all were causing trouble last night. So, so I do this thing whenever somebody sends a gift on TikTok Live. I take a sip of my wine, and these people had me just drinking nonstop, and that's not okay because it's a weeknight. I have to work. I woke up today and I was not feeling okay. I was not feeling good. It was hard, I'll tell you that. It was hard. But I had a good time. So yeah, I'm going to stick around for another couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to let me know. Jen says, the biggest issue I have is people interrupting. How do you tactically point that out? That's a very good question. So that's one thing that I know on my end. What I try to do is when somebody is giving their opinion, I always try to make sure they get it out first, right? and I'll say this, when somebody is dead set on not letting you finish, they are dead set on not letting you finish. And that's really, really tough to deal with. What I personally recommend is if they start talking over you, the last thing that you want to do is try to start talking over them, because that's when you get into a bigger altercation than what it should be. So continue to be assertive, continue to stand your ground, let them get their thoughts out. If they don't want to listen, that's their problem. Sometimes what I'll do, especially if I'm at work, if I see somebody is just not listening to me, when it's all said and done, I'll write it down, I'll send them an email, or I'll pull them to the side and say, hey, can I just talk to you alone for a minute or so? And hopefully, it depends on the person, but usually that's what ends up working. we didn't Merlot did. Yeah, I was drinking white Merlot, and then I ran out of that bottle, and I had to go to Moscato. You guys causing trouble, causing trouble. But I had a good time last night. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Oh my gosh. So if any of you joined in late to this webinar, don't worry, I recorded the entire thing. So it'll go up on my website, it'll go up on YouTube and Instagram, you'll be able to watch the whole thing. Sandra says, what about extremely hard conversations? Is there an approach you'd rather take than staying silent while trying to be assertive at the same time? Yes, so there is nothing harder than finding the ability to have a difficult conversation with somebody, right? And the one thing that I always remind myself whenever I have to have some sort of difficult conversation, I always remind myself, there's not a perfect time to do it, really, right? There's no like standard operating procedure, like, hey, this is how you go about doing this. This is how, blah, blah, blah. There's like everything that even I say tonight, right? It all applies to specific situations, specific people. But when you have to have an extremely hard conversation, I think the key word here is honesty. Being able to be upfront and honest and know that they may react in any sort of way. The one mistake that I do see people make all the time is that they will try to predict what the other person will say in return, right? And what I feel is wrong about that is that when the person reacts a different way than what they expected, all of it goes out the window and it gets really, really hard. And you don't know what to do, you get frazzled. So what I do, if I know if I have to have a difficult conversation, the way that I approach it is I'll make sure that everything that I'm going to say, I truly believe in. I truly believe in every word that I'm about to say. Because if they come back at me for any reason, no matter how, I can always go back and rely on that base support that I have in my heart and in my brain. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows how exactly things are going to turn out. But if you're honest, if you're upfront and honest, you can let that serve as your base, and then you can always return to that base no matter what direction it goes in. Rachel says, people love to talk to me, which I love. However, I have time constraints and obligations too. How do I respectfully and assertively tell them I have to go or have to wrap it up when they just keep on and on with their stories? I think you just answered your own question. Answer it respectfully and assertively. So let's just say right now I'm talking to you. You have to go do something before the store closes. You have to run to the store before the store closes, right? If you stop me and like, hey, Kyrus, I understand what you're saying right now, but I really have to go. Maybe blah, 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 right? So what I'll do is if I have to stop somebody, I'll always say, hey, listen, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I have to go do this real quick. Can we catch up at such and such time? Or can we revisit this at such and such time, right? Giving them that option, even if you don't necessarily want to, it'll leave them feeling a little bit better. Obviously, anybody feels a little weird when they get interrupted, right? When they're in the middle of the story and you have to go somewhere. But here's the thing. You can't worry about other people's feelings when it comes to that. You can't. You just got to just go with it and say what's on your heart and just be like, hey, listen, I'm so sorry. I really got to go. The one thing that we have here, time, it belongs to you, and you got to use it to the best of your ability. And if you're prevented from doing that, you got to speak up. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Rachel. I have time for one or two more questions if you guys have any questions. This is fun. I was worried. Because last week we did a live webinar, and I did it via Facebook Live, and it did not work, and I was so upset. So I had to end up recording it and then putting it up online later. So I wasn't able to do like the question and answer session that we're doing right now. So I'm really happy that this worked out. I think there's a couple like small like little kinks that we can work out, but overall I think it went okay. So do me a favor, friends, for those of you that are still hanging out and watching, do me a favor, email me or DM me, Facebook me, let me know what you thought of the webinar today, because if anything, I want to be able to improve. I want to be able to make sure that this is better for the future. On Saturday, I'll probably be announcing next week's webinar. I think we might do one next week. We'll see. But yeah, just let me know what you think. Go on my website, email me, comment on here, or you can DM me, Instagram me, TikTok me, whatever you want. Just let me know what you guys thought of this tonight. And once again, I'm really excited. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. I hope that you got something out of this. Once again, you can visit my website at thevibewithkai.com if you're looking for blogs, videos, images, just anything that'll make you do good, feel good, be good, and live a good life full of good vibes. Also, you can get your Vibe with Kai gear there right now. If you go right now, you can get 15% off. I'm not joking. You should go take care of that right now. So go get your Vibe with Kai gear. You can also follow me on your favorite social media platforms. Follow me on Facebook and on Instagram at The Vibe with Kai. And you can also follow me on Snapchat, Twitter, and TikTok at Kyrus Keenan. I do have a policy on Snapchat. If you send me a picture of you smiling, I will send one of me back to you, because I am a true believer that smiles are meant to be shared with everybody. So with that said, once again, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you got something good out of this. You're all amazing people. I love you.